Chapter 71 Eternal Ice, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I quit. Me too. I don't want to lose my life. The next three disciples straight up quit after walking up to face Mariel. They glanced at their number one who was unconscious as a pool of blood surrounded his body. The medics were trying to heal his body, but there was not a single person on the mortal cultivation world who could heal his manhood. It's getting boring. Hey Mia, your turn. Mariel said as she yawned and deserted the stage for Mia. The Boundless Weapons sect started cheering in joy as they believed that they could still win since Mariel had just quit. Well, at least she won't kill them brutally. Riang sighed with relief, but Mariel just laughed at her. That girl is someone even I don't want to mess with. She tries her best to be cheerful and normal, but on the inside, she is one of the most cruelest women I have ever known. Mariel said with a small smile as Riang shuddered. Mariel, who was terrifying and psychotic, was saying that Mia was someone even she didn't want to meddle with. Riang couldn't even imagine what was about to happen. As soon as Ian gave the signal, the disciple casually took an arrow and notched it in his bow. I will first destroy your clothes and then I will kill you. The disciple said to Mia using a spiritual message as he released the arrow. However, Mia didn't move from her spot and the audience thought that she was frozen in fear, but of course, they were wrong. As soon as the arrow appeared in front of Mia, it froze. It completely froze and dropped on the ground and shattered. The ice that cannot be destroyed. Mariel said as Riang and everyone else gasped. That person is the wielder of ice that can freeze lava. The coldness that spreads from her is enough to freeze air. Mariel said with a small laugh as the atmosphere started to turn colder. Small snowflakes started to fall from the sky as the air around Mia swirled violently. The land below her feet started to turn to ice as she started to walking towards the disciple. Eternal ice. The true name and form of unmeltable ice. The ice that was used to trap people. They would be frozen in time till the ice was destroyed, and when they will come out, they will remain unchanged. Mia said as the disciple started to run away from her. Become a part of this ice and stay frozen for eternity. Mia said and raised her hand towards the disciple. A trail of ice followed her hand's trajectory and hit the disciple, thus trapping him in ice. I would have liked to trap you for a large amount of time, but that would be boring. Hey Mariel, I am borrowing your power. Mia said as she remembered the conversation she had with Kai when they were strolling through the city. I have added a new function for the mark. Harem members ACN now share their powers with each other for a minute as long as both of them agree to it. In this way, I can give you my powers or you can give yours to someone else. He had said to her. But would both of them receive each other's powers? Mia had asked as Kai pondered on for a minute. The two people will share the other's power while keeping their own power, meaning that if you and Mariel share your powers, you both will be able to use purple flames and unmeltable ice. He had told her after a minute before they had finally found the hotel they were currently living in. Mia's eyes started glowing as her ice blue left eye turned into a cat-like yellow eye. Simultaneously, Mariel's left eye turned ice blue. Mia raised her left hand towards the frozen disciple as a hot wave of purple fire rose from her body. The flames followed the trajectory of her hand and covered the entire stage of the arena with flames that started to rise up. Mia had destroyed the eternal ice prison beforehand so that the flames would be able to roast the disciple. Match over. Mia said as the flames settled down. Nothing was left of the disciple and the entire place was completely silent. We withdraw from the tournament. The Boundless sect master said to Ian as the entire sect left the place while trembling. The Blue Moon sect advances to the next round. Even Ian had lost her hosting voice as she spoke the result. Mia's and Mariel's eyes turned to normal as the two of them left. The Blue Moon sect stared at her sect master as Riang went up to join the rest of the sect with the participants. She couldn't believe what she just saw. No treasure was used and there was not trick. It was single-handed massacre. Who are you, Kai, and who are the ones that follow you? Riang whispered to herself as she glanced at Sky. Kai on the other hand had finally found the group of bandits who had captured Mia. He just snapped his fingers to freeze them on their spots. He searched through their memories and collected everything he needed to. He then burned them into nothingness and destroyed their base down to shreds. He then played those memories. Kai appeared in a dark place as usual as the memories started to play in front of him. Since he mixed the memories together, he was watching everything in third-person mode. The bandits were eating their dinner when suddenly a white flash of light went across the forest. They ran towards the center of the light to see if a spiritual treasure was born, but all they saw was a beautiful girl about 15 landing on the ground. She had beautiful blonde hair and shiny yellow eyes. However, she was just hovering there like she was dead. And now they will capture her. Kai sighed as the bandits, overcome by their lust, started moving so that they could capture Mia. But something shocking happened. As soon as one of the bandits grabbed Mia's body, her appearance completely changed. Her hair and eyes turned ice blue and scepter of the ice goddess appeared in her hand. She raised it as icicles started to drop from the sky. The bandits screamed as they tried to dodge the icicles, but it was impossible. Further, ice continuously revolved around Mia's body as dead bodies started to litter the floor. However, a pure white ball of light flew through the sky at an impossible speed and hit Mia directly in the chest as she was knocked unconscious. The remaining 10 or so bandits decided to flee away as Mia crashed on the ground. When she finally opened her eyes, she gazed at the purple comet that looked as though it was falling from space towards the land. Beautiful, she said as her appearance turned back to normal and she finally stood up. But the bandits came back with some more people. If memory serves right, these guys were from the Choo Choo family. They took a struggling Mia to the Choo Choo family house and Kai knew the rest. That light was almost like a teleportation formation, but I don't think anyone can create a teleportation formation on this planet. Wait, that light. Kai said suddenly as he traveled to the spot where Mia had first appeared. Pieces of her unmeltable ice were still present in the place as Kai moved towards the center of the place where a huge pillar of ice was standing straight. A space gate, he said as he picked up a transparent piece of glass from the ground. On the other side of the mirror, snow was falling on the ground, thus marking the place as the northern continent. Who the hell created these space gate and how did these mortals manage to tinker with them? Kai asked himself as he tossed the shard of the space gate inside his pendant. He would now use this shard to travel to the central continent and rescue Rizia, but he would do this after the tournament because if anyone on this continent needed him, he won't be able to come and help them. He teleported back to Royal Capital and used the harem mark to find Mia and Mariel. You are back. That was quick as you didn't even take a whole day to search for clues. Mia said in an impressed tone. I found out many things, he said and touched their foreheads as Mia and Mariel fell unconscious. Their eyes opened up after a minute and they glanced at Kai with curiosity. Was that true? Mia wasn't the least bit horrified by what she had done. And Kai believed that she was right as those men deserved that for trying to *PE an innocent underage girl. I also obtained this from the battlefield, Kai said as he took out the broken shard of the space gate. Another space gate and this one leads to the northern continent. Let's go explore that place and find about me after the tournament, Mia said as Kai smiled. Let's go back and see the rest of the matches, Kai said as the trio teleported back to the arena. Since I received more than 100 spirit stones, today is a double release. Enjoy. Chapter 72 Slaughtering Another Great Sect, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The rest of the battles were quite boring considering that the first battle was too much exciting. Kai was so bored that he just decided to leave with Mia and Mariel. If anything comes up, contact me by using this communication slip, Kai said to Riang as he handed her a small scroll. He then vanished with Mia and Mariel as Riang just sighed and kept the scroll inside a space ring. So, what should we do on our date? Kai asked his two lovers as Mia and Mariel chuckled. Let's eat and then think about what we should do. Mariel suggested as she was hungry and Kai, who was a foodie, agreed with her. Let's just find the best restaurant here, and if this time, someone says that I am not qualified to eat in their restaurant, I am gonna slap them till their teeth fall out of their mouth. Kai said as he cracked his knuckles while Mia and Mariel sighed. It was quite easy to find the best restaurant in the royal capital. It was a 7-story restaurant and it was stated that there was a dress code. I guess we should change our dresses. Kai said as he tapped his jacket. His body shimmered for a minute and his clothes changed. He was now wearing a pure black coat with black jeans and a white T-shirt. Mariel also touched her armor.com skirt as it started to extend. Within a few seconds, Mariel was standing there while wearing a gorgeous red dress. As for Mia, her jacket completely enveloped her body and she was now wearing a piercing black dress. What are you wearing? The guard at the entrance of the hotel asked as he stared at the group's clothes as the trip facepalmed. We wore the formal clothes of the upper realms. They thought simultaneously. Kai was at least 10,000 years old while Mariel was even older than him. Mia was only a millennium old, but still, all three of them were so old and still made such childish mistakes. Whatever. We are eating here while wearing our normal clothes. Kai said as their clothes changed back to their original clothes. Kai snapped his fingers as the guy forgot about them and the trio entered the restaurant. Sir, there is a dress code for eating here. The receptionist said as to Kai as he sighed. He then snapped his fingers and put every single person in the hotel under an illusion. It would appear to them that the trio was following the dress code and the problem would be solved. And after that, it was smooth sailing. After eating their food, the trio left the restaurant as Kai gazed at the sky. It was reaching night time and the fifth battle must be going on. I guess we only have an hour or so left till the tournament is finished. What do you guys want to do? Kai asked as Mia and Mariel both thought about it for a minute. Let's return to the arena. We will tell you about it later. Mariel said with a grin and Kai more or less understood what they were thinking. Well, I am going to take your purity for the second time, which I don't think you can do twice. Kai said as he teleported them back to the arena. It looked as though the battles were over as the sects were leaving the arena. Kai met up with the Blue Moon sect and he teleported them back to the hotel. But before vanishing, he saw that the Boundless Weapons sect was standing near the entrance of the arena and the sect master was glaring at him with malice. He is going to try to attack us tonight. Kai narrowed his eyes as everyone went back to their rooms. I will come back in a few minutes. I have another great sect to kill. Kai said to Mia and Mariel as he went outside the hotel and waited for some time. Now, he could have just whipped up a barrier around the hotel and the problem would be solved. But people like the Boundless Weapons sect should be dealt with efficiently or they would just continue popping up like insects. And as the knights surrounded the royal capital, the Boundless Weapons sect started to move towards the hotel. But as soon as they reached the entrance, they saw Kai who was standing outside with an amused expression. And here I was thinking that you won't show up. Kai said in an amused tone as the sect master of the Boundless Weapons sect sneered. Even though those bitches were crazy strong, do you really think you can defeat an entire sect? The sect master laughed savagely as he signaled for the sect members to attack Kai. Kai just laughed at their futile attempt and at that moment, he looked like a psychopath on the loose. Raiden. Kai said as clouds gathered in the sky. Golden lightning struck beside Kai as Raiden appeared as the white tiger. That's. The sect master couldn't even speak as he and his sect gasped at the sight of Raiden. Let's teach them a lesson. Kai said with a smile as Raiden's purred to agree with him. Kai's eyes turned golden and Raiden's body started to glow. Golden lightning started to rampage around Kai's body while normal lightning covered Raiden's body. Together, both of them charged at the Boundless Weapons sect as they controlled the lightning with them. Golden lightning shot out from Kai's body as it electrocuted the members of the Boundless Weapons sect while Raiden summoned natural lightning to strike down the screaming members. They killed more than half of the sect within a minute and the remaining half covered in fear. Please. The sect master started to say, but Kai cut his tongue as blood exploded out from the sect master's mouth. What's the point of begging for forgiveness when you already did something shouldn't have done? I am not some hero who will spare your life just because you are sorry. Accept responsibility for what you do. Kai said as he killed the rest of the Boundless Weapons sect. And sometimes, that responsibility might include dying. Kai said as he dismissed Raiden. Kai left the bodies there as a message to Watanabe and the rest of the continent. The message was clear: don't mess with him or you will suffer the same fate as the Boundless Weapons sect. Now, the royal family would have decided to punish the person responsible for this slaughter, but Watanabe knew Kai, and since she loved her son, she would, of course, make sure that no one would try to do this again. Kai then went back as guards patrolling the city finally found the bodies. They would have found them during the battle as there were many screams and outbursts of energy, but Kai had already thought of that. Thus, he has surrounded the entire area with a barrier that kept everything inside it. And because of the barrier, the guards had neither heard nor seen what Kai had done. But before leaving, Kai had opened up the barrier and gave the guards a little signal before leaving. But what Kai didn't know was that someone had been standing outside the barrier and had seen him move inside the hotel after killing the Boundless Weapons sect. That person is going to be fun. A girl's voice was heard as a pure black tiger appeared behind her. The black tiger purred as the girl gently stroked its fur while watching the guards below as they scrambled up to count the bodies. Would you enjoy fighting him, Black? The girl asked as the black tiger purred again, indicating that it sure wanted to fight Kai. Then I will personally make sure that we fight him. The girl said as the tiger and the girl vanished. As for Kai, he simply went back to his room to only be assaulted by Mia and Mariel. Both of them tied him up and he let them do it since he wanted to see what they will do to him. After tying him to the bed, they quickly stripped him naked and smiled at him. They then just untied the knot around his mouth to let him speak. So, what do you plan on doing to a defenseless little me? Kai asked as Mia and Mariel just grinned. We know that you can easily destroy those ropes, but for once, enjoy the show. And also, you are not allowed to do anything unless we say so. Mariel said as Kai chuckled. Commanding. I do like that. So you are going to treat me like a toy, aren't you? Kai asked with a charming smile. Well, if toys are as handsome and nice as you, I will buy millions of them. But unfortunately, nobody can make a toy like you. So instead we are going to treat you like our little toy. Mariel said again as she grinned at Mia. Chapter 73 Kai's Virginity, R.18, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 73 Kai's Virginity, R.18, Chapter Preview. Mariel then stepped back a little as a seductive smile lit up her face. She then did a slight twirl as she bowed to Kai. Enjoy the show, Your Majesty. Mariel said as her armor vanished into thin air and a crimson bra was revealed to Kai. A strip tease. Kai thought with amusement as he started his own acting. What are you doing, miss? You. Kai didn't complete his sentence as though he didn't have any words to describe his situation. You really are an awesome actor. Mariel smiled as she unhooked her bra and revealed her breasts to Kai. She gathered them with her hands and started fondling her breasts as turned around and bent her ass towards Kai. Ah, my dick is starting to harden. Please stop what you are doing, miss. Kai exclaimed as Mia tried to stop herself from laughing at him. But Mariel siding stiff as her luscious blonde hair dropped on her back and she removed her shorts. A bright red panty was revealed as Mariel turned to face Kai. She then slowly pulled the panty down and Kai started making gasping noises. Is this your first time seeing a pussy? Mariel asked as she slowly started walking towards Kai. Yes. Kai said nervously as Mariel slowly climbed on the bed. Then I should give you a better look. She said as she slowly used her hands to part the lips near her pussy. Kai gulped nervously as he slowly looked at her pussy and it felt as though it was calling him. Do you want to touch it? Mariel asked as Kai nodded enthusiastically. Mariel untied his hands as Kai gulped and extended his hand towards her pussy slowly. He carefully touched it with his finger before backing away a little. He then slowly inserted his entire finger inside her pussy as Mariel's face morphed into a pleased expression. Very good boy. Now, do you want to taste my delicious pussy? Mariel asked again as Kai took his finger out of her pussy. Sure miss. He replied as Mariel slowly started moving near to his face. Whereas Mia was trying hard to control her laughter as she gazed at Kai and Mariel. Who could have known that watching a roleplay would be this fun? She thought silently as she continued to watch. Mariel's pussy was now in front of Kai's mouth as he inhaled the enticing smell of her pussy. He then inserted his tongue inside her pussy and felt warm wet caves around his tongue. Mariel released a low moan as Kai licked her pussy. He then started sucking on her clit like a baby as Mariel's body started to relax. Enough. Now let's check your little dragon. Mariel said as she gently pushed back Kai before slowly turned towards his dick as her ass was pointed at Kai's face. BVEC, it's a big dragon. Mariel gasped as though she was shocked. Kai's dick rose in length and stood straight in front of Mariel's face. She slowly licked the head of the dick as Kai's body shuddered a little. You like it, boy? Mariel asked as she continued to lick the head of his dick. Yes ma'am, I very much enjoy it. Kai said slowly as his body shuddered again. Then let's do the 69 position. Mariel said as their dot adjusted their positions. Now Mariel's pussy was right above Kai's mouth while she was stroking his dick. He inserted his tongue inside her pussy just as she swallowed the head of his dick. Kai began ravaging her pussy with his tongue as Mariel swallowed his dick. Her cheeks hallowed around his dick as her warm mouth clung to it. She then used her tongue to wrestle around with his dick as Kai started sucking on her clit. Mariel was an expert at controlling her moans and that's why no sound leaked from her mouth. Well, that's all for the role play. Let's start the real thing now. Kai said as he broke free of the rest of the ropes and flexed his body a little. Mariel then laid down on the bed and opened her entrance for Kai's dick as he slowly pushed it inside her. She gritted her teeth as she felt his dick ravage through her pussy and since Kai's dick was big, it reached deep inside her. When it was finally inside her, she panted a little as Kai let her get used to the feeling of his dick. He then modified his dick according to her caves as her insides suddenly grew very hot. She interlocked her hands behind his neck as her whole body tensed up. Hot waves of yin chi were released from her caves and they completely bathed Kai's rod in cum. Phew, coming after so long feels like heaven. Mariel said as her body relaxed. Since you are still a virgin and you are at the heaven spirit realm, I might be able to break through to the second stage of the imperial spirit realm after today's sessions. Kai announced as Mia and Mariel just stared at him. What the hell is wrong with your cultivation speed? You are just rampaging through the realms like it's no big deal. Mia said as she was dumbfounded by Kai's statement. It's because I absorb 100% of the energy present in my partner's yin chi and other than that, I have been quite lucky in this world. Kai said as he remembered the resources he obtained in this world. The resources he obtained from the forest where he massacred an entire nest of dragons to break through to the 10th stage of the heaven spirit realm. Then the souls he absorbed to break through to the imperial spirit realm while destroying the corrupted space gate. His luck really had been heaven-defying that he was able to receive such splendid resources. Otherwise, it would have taken him quite a large amount of time to make this many breakthroughs. Speaking about virginity, I am curious about how you lost your virginity. Mariel suddenly asked as Kai lightly chuckled. He removed his dick from her pussy and touched Mariel and Mia's foreheads as their eyes rolled back. You could have just told us instead of showing us your memories. Mariel sighed as Kai's memories started playing. It was quite a normal bar and Kai had just walked inside it. He looked the same as the current Kai, but he was definitely much younger as he walked in a careless manner and his whole body was completely relaxed. The shocking thing was that this Kai was wearing robes. Mia and Mariel both raised their eyebrows at Kai as he just shrugged. I was only 100 years old at that time and I didn't know much about the world. Kai protested as Mia and Mariel's eyes widened in surprise. But they didn't speak anything as the younger Kai casually chose a sofa and sat down on it while ordering some drinks. And as though attracted towards him by magnetic force, two girls appeared beside Kai and asked if they could sit down with him. He agreed to it and they casually sat beside him. And like that, they drank some wine and talked for a while before the trio stood up and went to the upper floor of the bar where special rooms were created for having sex. You lost your virginity to two hookers. Mia couldn't believe her eyes as she looked at the younger Kai who entered a room with the two girls. You know how sad it is when you are a normal 100-year-old cultivator minding your own business and someone asks you if you ever had sex and you don't know what he means. 'Cause I know how that feels. I didn't even know what's the difference between a male and a female was, much less know about sex. So when I saw my chance, I lost my virginity in a threesome. Kai said as his younger version stripped the two women naked. No matter how cool the younger Kai looked on the outside but on the inside, he was bursting with excitement because he was finally getting laid after 100 years. His dick wasn't modifiable when he was young as he didn't even know about male and female parts, much less about modifiable dicks. But still, it was an impressive 7 inches erect dick that made the women smile as if they were impressed. And after that, he just simply put his dick inside one woman and pounded her while he finger-fucked the other woman with his hands. And even though he didn't have his impressive techniques with him, he was still a natural sex artist, if that's even a thing. He knocked both the women unconscious in about an hour and his memories then stopped playing. So you had a talent for sex from the starting. Mariel said as Kai chuckled at her words. But didn't those women get pregnant as you were not able to control your young chi during that time? Mia asked as Kai gave her a sad smile. I am infertile. He said slowly as Mia and Mariel gasped. But those women weren't hookers. They were dual cultivators and used dual cultivation techniques and they were able to make many breakthroughs because of my pure yang qi and after that, they just started a business and left dual cultivation since no one was able to satisfy them. He said with a grin as he stared at Mia and Mariel. Well, since my memories are now out of the way, let's get back to our session, ladies. Kai said as he plunged his dick inside Mariel's pussy. Chapter 74 Artemis, the Moon Goddess. Our Point 18, Chapter Preview, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Ah, Mariel finally moaned as Kai started to pound her fiercely. He grabbed hold of her small waist and completely ravaged her caves. Mia was getting a tingling sensation in her pussy as she watched Kai and Mariel's session. Mia, remove your clothes and I will pleasure you too. Kai said as Mia quickly stripped down her clothes. Get on top of Mariel and keep your pussy in front of my face. Kai instructed as Mia did what he said. Now Mia pussy was in front of Kai mouth as he extended his tongue inside her pussy. But as he was still continuing to pound Mia, his tongue slid in and out of Mia's pussy. Ah! Ah! The sound of two women moaning filled the entire room. Kai's slippery tongue continued explored Mia's caves as a hot sensation started to build up in her pussy. While doing that, he was also pounding Mariel as his dick slid through her caves at a very fast pace. Suddenly, a very hot sensation passed through both the women's caves as hot cum shot out it. Kai swallowed every last drop of cum that was released from Mia's pussy as he slowly bent down and sucked Mariel's clit. Since Mariel was already sensitive from her earlier orgasm and she come directly into Kai's mouth. He sucked every single drop it before he lifted his head to look into Mariel's misty eyes. So how was the feeling of having my dick inside your caves after such a long time? Kai asked as Mariel caught her breath for a minute. It was just like the first time, Mariel said between breaths. She then switched positions with Mia. Now Mia was in front of Kai's dick while Mariel hovered above her body. But Mariel was one step ahead of Mia as she grabbed her breasts and started squishing them. Kai, watching this, chuckled as he entered Mia's pussy while playing with Mariel's pussy using his tongue. But he stopped using his tongue as Mariel moved forward to suck on Mia's breasts. She uses her tongue to circle around the red nipples as Mia moaned. Kai decided to increase the speed as Mia's moans started to increase. Within mere minutes, she cummed twice and she started panting as Kai finally removed his dick. He ordered the two beauties to lay straight on the bed as he glanced at their bodies. He grabbed both of their breasts as he fondled them with care. He then went in to taste Mariel's nipples as he started sucking on them like a baby. He used both of his hands to grab her ass and lift her up as he slowly made his way up to her mouth. He inserted his tongue inside her mouth as he pushed her body against his. While gently wrestling with her tongue, Kai's one hand slipped over Mariel's pussy as he slowly rubbed it. Mariel released a muffled moan as she was completely trapped by Kai. But he suddenly let go of her body as her breathing started to fasten. He went over to taste Mia's nipples as she gently stroked his hair. While sucking on her breasts, he would pinch the nipples between his teeth and Mia would moan loudly. He started rubbing her pussy as he started traveling to her mouth, leaving behind a trail of hickeys. Surprisingly, Mariel started to rub her nipples against Kai's back as she slowly started to stroke his dick. He reached Mia's mouth and kissed her passionately as he inserted a finger inside her pussy. She moaned in pleasure but Kai soon stepped back. He then looked into their eyes before snapping his fingers. Mariel's eyes suddenly closed as she hit the bed and started snoring. "Let's have some one-on-one," Kai said with a smile as Mia lifted herself up and settled down of Kai's dick. She then did a 180 as her ass faced Kai. She then started riding Kai's manhood as his dick slipped inside and outside of her extremely wet pussy. Coldness started to surround Kai's dick but it too started to get hotter as it counter-attacked the ice. He then raised his hand and spanked her as she released a moan in pleasure. Seeing her body squirm around his dick, Kai spanked her ass once again. She once again wriggled around in pleasure as Kai suddenly grabbed hold of her waist. His dick started to increase a little as it touched the tip of her cave. He then released his yang qi inside her while Mia's body relaxed. He then removed her from his dick and gently laid her on the bed. Both of them started cultivating and Mia broke through to the 7th stage of the heaven spirit realm. She then closed her eyes and fell asleep as Kai woke up Mariel. She immediately sat on his lap and started to kiss him passionately as Kai fondled her breasts. She then stood up and bent on all 4 of her arms and extended her ass towards him. She playfully slapped her butt and looked into his eyes. "Spank me," she ordered as he smiled. "With pleasure," Kai replied as he raised his right hand. He first hit her right butt cheek as she moaned in pleasure. He then hit her left butt cheek and a red mark was left behind by his hand. But Mariel was only feeling the pleasure involved in spanking and she was not feeling any pain. Kai then pushed her body down as he entered her caves and started fucking her doggy style. He hit the good spots as Mariel too started to squirm. He then spread apart her ass to get a better view as he pushed deep inside her and touched the tip of her cave. Mariel moaned loudly as she released her yin qi and her eyes started to darken. Kai quickly released his yang qi inside her as she started to cultivate it. She also broke through to the 7th stage of the heaven spirit realm as she fell asleep. Kai gazed at 2 of his lovers as both of them were sleeping peacefully. Their bodies were completely relaxed and not even a drop of tension was visible on their faces. "Hey Kai, will we ever go back?" Mia asked as her eyes opened a little. It looked as though she was still quite sleepy. "We will definitely go back. I promised you that we will go back and that we will stay with each other forever," Kai gently said as he stroked her head. Her eyes closed back again as she heard Kai's words. "I hope we stay on this planet for some more time. I have come to like it," Mia whispered as she fell asleep. Kai stood up with a smile as he gently kissed their foreheads before covering their bodies with a blanket. "I, too, have become fond of this place," Kai said to himself as he wore his clothes and opened the door. He then soundlessly exited the room and closed the door behind him. He then placed a few formations around the room as he slowly made his way through the hotel's hallway. He went to a particular door and gently knocked on it as Riang opened the door while wearing a night dress. "Were you sleeping?" Kai asked as he entered the room and Riang closed the door. "No, I was just gazing at the moon," she replied as Kai saw her open window. It was a full moon tonight and light entered the room abd illuminated Riang's appearance. He sat down on the bed as Riang went near the window and continued to gaze at the moon. Kai too gazed at the moon as he remembered his visit to the moon realm, a place where creatures that could only get out in moonlight lived. He had met the moon goddess, Artemis, there and watched her work for the betterment of her empire. She had been one of the first few members of his harem. She had been kind and caring like the bright moon, but she was also powerful and scary like the dark half of the moon. She had fallen in love with him as he had helped her throughout his time there. But they couldn't confess her feelings for Kai as she was supposed to marry the ruler of the dark side of the moon empire. The moon realm had been split between the light side and the dark side. Both the sides hated each other from the beginning and many wars were waged and all of them ended in stalemate as their powers varied depending on the day and night in the moon realm. However, the current rulers didn't want to wage war against each other because the rulers wanted to maintain peace on their side of the empire. To sign a treaty of everlasting peace, the two rulers decided to marry each other and collaborate the people of their empires. But it was all a trap as on the wedding day, assassins filled the wedding hall and started to massacre the people on the light side of the moon empire, and it included generals, courtiers, innocent civilians and even children. The dark ruler had then laughed at the Artemis for falling for such a trick, but before he could kill her, Kai had brutally stabbed him in the heart. "I didn't told her that I love her because she wanted to maintain peace in her empire and she wanted to marry you for that single reason. But since you are such an asshole, nothing is stopping me from killing you and making her my lover," Kai had said to the dark ruler before killing him for good, and then he kissed Artemis. He then killed the traitors from the dark side, while allowing the loyal ones to stay with the light side, and announced that he will marry Artemis. It was then that she became the moon goddess as Kai helped her in advancing in her cultivation. She even gained a nickname for herself as people started to call her Artemis the Hunter. He gave her his harem mark a few years later and that's when she finally became a part of his harem. Kai shook himself awake from his past memories and looked at Riang who was continuously staring at the moon. "It helps me be at peace," Riang said to Kai before he could ask anything. "Do you want to be at peace when a handsome man like myself wants to cultivate with you?" Kai asked as he grinned. "Well, a tempting offer which I will of course accept." Riang chuckled as she closed the window. "My novel finally became a contracted novel and the gift function is now available. I don't plan on locking the chapters currently, but I will do it after a few chapters, so I thought that I should tell you this beforehand. I hope you continue reading the novel. Enjoy." Chapter 75 Infinite Apples, R.18, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Riang sat in Kai's lap and started to kiss him while he used his hands to deepen the kiss. They rolled over on the bed as Kai removed her nightdress. She wasn't wearing any bra underneath it and her breasts were on full display as the nipples bounced around. Kai gently grabbed her breasts and started fondling them with care. He then slid forward as he gently started sucking on her nipples alternatively while Riang intertwined her arms behind Kai's neck and pushed him deeper into her breasts. He then clenched her nipple between his teeth and bit into it as Riang moaned loudly. Kai then removed her panties and she spread her legs apart to give Kai a better access to his pussy. He started licking her upper thighs and slowly made his way up to her pussy. Small drops of arousal juice was dripping from her pussy as Riang was getting hornier by the second. Kai then started to tease her by licking the area around her pussy as he kept sliding over the entrance. He then slid his tongue inside her pussy as he licked the caves. Riang grabbed his head and pushed him deeper as Kai savored her pussy. "I am about to come," Riang said as her knees unconsciously closed behind Kai's neck. Her insides grew hot as she came directly into Kai's mouth. After her orgasm, her legs became weaker and they slowly opened up. Kai removed his tongue from her pussy and licked his lips. He then stripped of his clothes as his bulging rod was revealed. Riang quickly took hold of his rod and started stroking it before she put the head of it in her mouth. She started swallowing it as the tip of Kai's dick touched her throat. She then started moving on it as she deep-throated Kai. Kai came in her mouth after a few minutes as his sweet cum traveled down her throat. Riang greedily swallowed every last drop of it before removing Kai's dick from her mouth. She then used her hands to spread apart her pussy as Kai entered her. He grabbed hold of her waist as he pushed his rod inside her. After it was completely swallowed by her caves, he started moving with swiftness. The feeling remains the same, whether it's the first time or second time. Riang said dreamily as she looked into Kai's eyes. Even after cultivating with so many women, I still enjoy the pleasure of dual cultivation. It's kind of a calming feeling for me whenever I cultivate with anyone. Kai replied with a smile as his dick started expanding again. It reached the tip of Riang's cave as Yang Qi burst through his dick and filled Riang's caves. It looked as though Riang was feeling sleepy as she fell asleep after cultivating the Yang Qi. She had managed to break through to the 10th stage of the Hell Spirit realm before falling asleep. Kai just covered her body with a blanket before he left her room. He then created some formations around every room in the hotel before leaving for a night walk. It was truly the royal capital as many people were still roaming around on the streets. While walking through the royal capital, Kai's eyes caught something special. There was a board hanging around a shop saying that they had the best chocolate on the entire continent and as a foodie, Kai purchased it. The chocolate had a dark tender flavor that made your tongue crave for more and in the center, a bomb of different flavors exploded in your mouth which made the chocolate quite good. While eating the chocolate, a woman wearing rags came towards Kai. She stopped a few meters away from him before standing in front of his face. "It looks as though you are quite a rich mister. Will you pay this woman a few spirit stones in exchange for me giving you a pleasant time?" The woman tried for a smile as Kai narrowed his eyes. "You are out of money and you are doing this for the first time so that you could feed your family," Kai said as the woman gasped. It was as though Kai had looked at her soul. "Yes sir, you are right. I am doing this cause my husband died and I have 3 children to feed and no means of income. And we are out of food for more than 2 days and I didn't know what I could do." The woman started crying as Kai gently patted her head. "Take me to your home and I will try to do something for you," Kai said with a bright smile as the woman wiped her tears and nodded. "But remember, if this is a facade, you are not going to live to tell the tale," Kai warned her as she nodded enthusiastically. They then started walking, with the woman taking the lead. Kai was no saint who would give everything he had to help the poor or weak, but he did help women who had to do something unpleasant in order to feed their families. The woman led him towards a place that looked like the slums of the royal capital as the very air in this place was full of hopelessness. Half-broken houses made of stone, people sleeping on the cold roads without any blankets, children starving on the roadside was all Kai could see as he and the woman walked towards her house. "Doesn't Zian Asahi do anything for your betterment?" Kai said, and depending on the woman's answer, he would have a talk with the ruler of the continent. No, Lord Xian is kind and he wants to improve this section of the capital. He gives the people living in the slums jobs, gives money for certain projects to improve our living, and he even wanted to construct some houses for us. But he is so busy that he cannot do all that himself, so he just leaves this to some ministers. But they abuse their power and treat us like trash, and they also make sure that nobody tells Lord Xian about that. My husband and a few other people decided to tell Lord Xian about this, but even before they could reach the palace, they were caught and murdered in secrecy. The woman said as a tear rolled down her eye. Well then, I am going to help everyone living here. Kai said as he snapped his fingers. Everyone living in the slums teleported in front of him, and the woman and all of them were awoke. Many people were shocked by this, but Kai didn't care as he took out an apple from his pendant. This was an apple he had bought from the southern continent, and the shop had been started by a group of beggars who had received help from Haruka, who was the current ruler of the southern continent. Kai had a similar idea in his mind as he dug a small hole in the soil and planted the entire apple inside it. He then bit a finger on his right hand and a golden drop of blood dropped on the ground. People gasped at this, and he just manipulated their memories to make them forget about this. The blood was soaked by the ground and the entire place started to shake. Soon, a huge golden tree bearing many apples was revealed to the people as the people started to gasp at its appearance. This tree will bear infinite apples, and they will keep appearing even after you will take some apples. In this way, all of you can sleep with full stomachs. Other than that, if anyone else tries, other than you guys, to take apples from this tree, they will be killed by it. So you can also think of it as a guardian tree. Other than that, there is a cultivation technique for every person that lives here, and a few hundred spirit stones are included with the techniques. You can now protect your families, and you can also earn some money by selling those apples and building a business. After that, you can rebuild this place by using the money obtained from your business. But remember, you will have to do that by yourself, and you will also have to protect everything by yourself, as I will not help you anymore. Kai finished as he gave everyone a cultivation technique that suited them and also handed them a few hundred spirit stones. Before leaving, the people knelt in front of him and gave him a final salute as he vanished. It felt good after doing such a thing, but there was one more thing that he has to do before going back to the hotel. He appeared in an alley where a person was running in a big hurry. Kai just snapped his fingers and the person exploded. This world doesn't need people like you. Kai said slowly as he teleported to the sect. The person he had just killed was a spy working for ministers, and he has been the one telling them about everything that happened in the slums. He had just removed a great threat from their lives. But there was another thing that he had to do. He would go to the royal palace tomorrow and take care of the ministers who were the masterminds of this situation. Chapter 76, A Smart and Cunning King. Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kai returned to the hotel when the sun started to rise. Upon entering his room, he saw Mariel hugging Mia's body like a body pillow, and Mia was keeping one of her legs on top of Mariel. If I didn't know better, I might as well have considered that to be a good sex position. Kai chuckled lightly. He then entered the shower and took an hour-long bath, which might be considered as a wastage of water. But the hotels in the royal capital were using water from the spiritual lakes underground. The water would be renewed by the end of every day because of the spiritual energy, so people could even have a water fight if they wanted to. After coming out from the bath, Kai saw that both Mariel and Mia were awake as they were standing in front of him. Both of them were naked as Mariel walked up to Kai and kissed him before entering the shower herself. How long will she take? Mia asked as she stretched her body, which was very much seductive as her breasts flayed in the air. Mariel is not a huge fan of water. So, at the most, 5 minutes. Kai replied as he snapped his fingers to clean the room. And he was right, as Mariel emerged from the bathroom within 5 minutes. She was wearing her usual clothes and her hair were shining even though they were not wet. I used my flames to dry my hair in an instant. Mariel said to Mia before she too went into the shower. So, what's our plan for today? Mia asked as she came out after 15 minutes. Unlike Kai and Mariel, her hair were still wet and were hanging down on her side. Today, we are going up to the palace to meet Xian Asahi and his council of corrupted ministers. Kai replied as he snapped his fingers to dry Mia's hair. He then told them about his last night's adventures as both of them nodded. The trio then exited their room and bumped into Riang, who was just coming to call Kai. "Oh, I was just coming to see you. I wanted to ask whether you will come with the rest of the sect to watch today's battles." Riang asked as Kai just shook his head. "We are currently going to the royal palace and most of our time will be spent there." Kai replied as Riang nodded and left to gather the sect. Kai then teleported the three of them in front of the royal palace. He spread his spiritual sense on the entire royal palace. It looked as though Xian Asahi was currently staying at the palace to attend royal affairs while Watanabe was staying at the arena. It looks as though half the royal family is in the arena. "Let's teleport to the throne room directly," Kai said as the three of them vanished and appeared smack in the middle of the throne room. "Maybe we should have just walked," Kai suggested as everyone inside the throne room stood up and released their cultivation. "He knows me. So you better withdraw your cultivation or I will kill you," Kai said as he pointed at Asahi as the people in the throne room were dumbfounded. However, much to their shock, Asahi started laughing as he stared at Kai. He then stood up from his throne and smiled at Kai. "I have heard some things about you and I must say, Mother was cheerful her visit to the Blue Moon sect. Perhaps you are one of the main reasons for her excitement," Asahi said as he looked at the two beauties standing beside Kai. "He is smart and cunning," Kai said as smiled at Asahi's personality. This person was genuinely kind at the heart but he wasn't blindly devoted to kindness. He was smart and cunning and perhaps that was one of the main reasons that the whole continent listened to him. Even though he was smart, these people were still fooling him under his nose. But wait. What if they weren't fooling him and all of this was intentional? Well, I am sure Watanabe loved our time together and I would happily spend time with her if it makes her happy. But I am here for a different reason. Who manages your projects and money? Kai asked as Asahi as the ministers glared at Kai and his two partners. And why should I tell that to a random kid who just happened to make my mother like him? Asahi asked in turn as Kai sighed. Why did I even bother asking? Kai said as he snapped his fingers and checked Asahi and the minister's memories. Well, that's interesting, Kai said as he glanced at Asahi and suddenly, huge waves of aura started to release from his body. Awe! Screams started to rise and the ministers and Asahi started to sink down to the floor. Only Mariel and Mia remained unaffected as they watched the scene unfold in front of them. Blood started to flow from the ministers and Asahi's eyes and they clawed at their eyes as if they wanted to pull them out. I will ask you a simple question. Those who are responsible for wrongfully using the money and resources that was supposed to help the slums, raise your hands or all of you will die brutally. Kai said as the people started to move. The wrongdoers will try to hide themselves till the end, however, people who know their crimes will always push the crime doers forward and save their own lives. And that's what happened in the throne room as 3 ministers were pushed in the front of the crawling crowd. I already knew that you 3 were the masterminds of this plan, but it was still exciting to watch your fellow ministers give you up in no time flat. Kai said as the pressure emitting from his body stopped. See, Asahi already knew that you guys were abusing your power but you covered up your tracks professionally. So, Asahi decided to deliberately give you that money and resources so that he could trap you and capture you at once. He gave you an entire year to develop the slums area but you continued to use that money for your own good. But what you didn't know was that Asahi had secretly smuggled many of his trusted members inside your household. They had recorded everything and Asahi was going to arrest you at the end of the tournament. A truly smart and cunning king, Kai said as he nodded his head at Asahi, who stood up easily and wiped the blood from his cheeks. And just so you know, I already saw this in his memories. So he was just acting about that pain and stuff. Kai said to the three ministers on the floor before he went in front of them and touched their foreheads one by one. Their eyes suddenly started to glow as their hands slowly started to move towards their eyeballs. Since you love to see everything with your eyes, it's a fitting end for you unless you have any objections. Kai asked Asahi, who just shook his head. I was planning on killing them by whipping them 1,000 times, but your way is more efficient and gives justice to everyone. Asahi said as he watched the three ministers claw out their eyeballs. After they were dead, Kai cleaned up the mess and teleported back to the hotel with Mariel and Mia. That kid was truly fascinating, Asahi said after Kai had vanished. He bent down and picked up an eyeball rolling on the floor. It was the only thing Kai deliberately left out. And he understands my true nature. He really is an interesting person, mother. Asahi thought as his lips curled up in a small smile. But the smile was anything but friendly. That man is really dangerous, Kai said as the trio appeared back in the hotel. Now, anyone else would have completely disagreed with him, but Mia and Mariel nodded. He maintains a kind and loving personality on the outside and his soul and heart are also kind. But it looks as though he just used his kindness to crush his other more fearful side. That man is definitely a sadist, but that sadist behavior is buried deep under his soul and he has created multiple restraints around it so it won't ever get out, but traces of it are still left. Kai said as he too smiled. I thought this place was boring and nothing happened here. But who could have guessed that this planet is more interesting than I had thought? Kai said as he looked at Mia and Mariel. Ednel.co, hey Kai, remember the cave where I met Watanabe and Kiana and we found out about the pure white tiger? Something is wrong with that place as time moves faster there. We only spend an hour or two there, but so much time had passed in the real world. Mariel said as Kai nodded. So let's go and check that place, Kai said as he extended his hand to the two beauties. Both of them took it as the three of them vanished into thin air. Chapter 77 Entities that Maintain Time and Space, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the trio appeared in the cave, Kai's pendant started glowing. He frowned for a second before retrieving the broken piece of the space gate. The piece flew out from his hand and started making its way through the cave. Kai marked the piece with a formation as he saw it get out of his sight. Something is definitely wrong with this cave. I will have to create a special formation for this, Kai said as he started drawing symbols in the air. He then bit his right finger as golden blood started to flow from the wound. A drop of it touched the ground and flowers started to bloom around the spot. Kai didn't pay attention to that as he dropped 4 drops of his blood in 4 different directions before touching the middle of it with his hand. Symbols started to light up around the trio as the formation came to life. It hit the trio. I'm the forehead and a Z-shaped symbol appeared on their foreheads. Mark of Eternity, Kai murmured to himself as the symbol ignited on their foreheads before vanishing. Now the cave won't affect us and time will pass like normal, Kai said as he teleported the 3 of them to the place where the broken piece of the space gate was. Now it all makes sense, Kai said slowly as he picked up 2 broken pieces of space gate. Mia and Mariel didn't say anything and just waited for Kai to tell them about it. He stored the 2 pieces inside his pendant before finally telling them about it. Mia was originally supposed to be on the northern continent, but on her birth, she didn't have her entire soul because half of your soul was still tied to me. But you didn't even get the first half cause you were no longer on this planet. Someone took you inside the space gate on the northern continent and someone shattered it from the outside. But no human can destroy the gate without losing his or her life, so that person is now dead. Since one of the entrances of a space gate was destroyed, you and the person who was with you were trapped inside. Since all the space gates are probably connected to the central continent, shattering one exit trapped you both of you inside the space that connects the 2 places. But since time passes differently inside a space gate, you were in there for 15 years before the space gate randomly spat you out. Kai explained as Mia strained hard to remember anything about her past. It's a futile attempt as without any soul, you won't have any memories. The moment you landed on this continent, the person who was with you lost their life as they destroyed the space gate that dropped you on this continent. I wish they hadn't done that as it was only a temporary space gate that would have vanished after some time. And after that, you regained your soul and you know what happened after that. Kai said as he had decided that he would not tell them about Mia's ice goddess killing mode. I guess I still have a lot of researching to do and I have to rescue Rizia after this tournament. Kai sighed as an idea clicked in his mind. He took out one of the pieces of the space gates and put it on the ground. He then bit his finger and dropped a few drops of his blood on the space gate piece. It looks as though the space gate here shattered automatically as more than 2 linking space gates were destroyed. This cave here absorbed that space energy and time and space spent here. It will vanish after a few years and this will be a normal cave after that. But for now, I am going to accelerate the time here so 1 second here would be a day outside. We will get out in 7 seconds and the second round would then start. Be ready to grab me as I will face a huge rebound. Kai warned them as they nodded. He closed his eyes and started focusing as the piece of space gate broke. Space energy was released from it. The cave absorbed it quickly. But then, Kai summoned every ounce of space energy present in the cave and redirected it to one spot. A deafening sound was heard as the energy was focused at one spot. Kai's body flew back because of the rebound and Mariel and Mia caught him. He then teleported them to the mouth of the cave as Kai took a few deep breaths before sitting down. You are basically like a god of time. Mia said in awe as Kai smiled. No person in the entire universe can become a god of time or space. What I just did was use every ounce of space energy present in this cave and morphed the space around us, and I even had to use this realm's spiritual energy for this, and that's why I flew back like that since the realm rejected me even though I stole enough energy to do it. No person can go to the future or to the past. What's happened cannot be changed and what will happen in the future will depend on you, so you should not mess with it or you will die. But this cave was a mutation and I just evolved it to its final stage and it cost 90% of my spirit energy, even though I used some of this realm's energy. Kai said as he stood up and flexed his shoulders. You are saying it like the world and realms are alive. Mariel asked in a confused tone as Kai sighed. No realm is alive and it only rebounds if the nature is threatened. As for the world, it consists of 2 alive entities that maintain time and space. And I am not going to tell you anything more. Kai said as he teleported the 3 of them to the arena. Where were you for the last few days? Riang asked as soon as she saw the trio. Never mind that. How were the rest of the fight? Kai asked as Riang sighed. It was like what I expected it to be. But the princess who is the host of the White Tiger was shocking. She had a pure black tiger and a 10th stage heaven spirit realm cultivation. She exclaimed as Kai nodded. It was exactly like he had thought of it. It was now time for the second round and it looked as though Ian was just announcing the competitors for the first round. The first one is the Blue Moon sect. Ian said as Kai smiled in amusement. They rigged it. He thought silently because there was no way that the Blue Moon sect would be picked twice. But he wanted to know who his opponents were. Can anyone from the Blue Moon sect come down to represent the sect? Ian asked as Kai jumped down from the stands and gracefully landed on the arena floor. And their opponents will be the Kuraha family. Ian announced as the entire place cheered. The Kuraha family ancestor landed on the arena floor and glared at Kai. The Kuraha family was the great family Kai had humiliated in the hotel as they wanted the hotel for themselves and they had believed that Kai was just a nobody without any background. But it looked as though they had bribed the Xian family so that they could obtain their revenge on Kai. Kai looked up at the pavilion where Xian Asahi was casually smiling at Kai. It looked as though Asahi wanted to test Kai's abilities. Too bad that Kai didn't want to fight them. This time, his disciples would fight the great family. LO, the match will start in 10 minutes. Please prepare for the battle. Ian said as Kai and the ancestor nodded. Here, use these. Kai said as he returned back to his sect and handed the participants 2 vials of his yang qi. He created a barrier around them so their force of breakthrough wouldn't burst out of the barrier. All of his disciples broke through to the 10th stage of the Hell Spirit realm in an instant, and they kowtowed to Kai. Go win the battle. He whispered in Nezuko's ears as she went up to the stage with confidence. It looks as though the Blue Moon sect is sending in someone new. I wonder how this young girl would do. Ian commented as Nezuko looked at her opponent. He was a fat man with a 3rd stage Hell Spirit realm cultivation. The Kuraha family didn't believe that the Blue Moon sect would have any more powerful members, except Kai, Mia, and Mariel. So they sent in one of their weakest members. Oh, you are quite beautiful. Leave that sect and become my concubine. I will give you money and will keep you pleased. The fat boy said as Nezuko snorted. Never gonna do that. Bye fatty. Nezuko grinned as she released her 10th stage Hell Spirit realm cultivation and moved with the help of her wind element. The fatty was so shocked that he could barely move as Nezuko chopped him on the back of his head and knocked him unconscious. Good job, Nezuko. Let's send in the next member. Kai said, much to everyone's shock, as he randomly chose one of his disciples to enter the stage. This time the Kuraha family sent in an 8th stage Hell Spirit realm cultivator and thought that Nezuko must have been someone special, but much to their shock, this person was also a 10th stage Hell Spirit realm cultivator. She defeated the 8th stage guy after a few minutes of battling and also returned back. The Kuraha family's jaw dropped as they saw that the next person was also at the 10th stage of Hell Spirit realm cultivator. They stared at Kai in horror. How many 10th stage Hell Spirit realm cultivators did this sect had? If only they knew that Kai was at the Imperial Spirit realm, then they would have dug a hole and jumped into it to die. Chapter 78 The Host of the Black Tiger, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. We withdraw from the tournament. The ancestor of the Kuraha family said as she gritted her teeth. The Kuraha family could not take any more insult and decided to withdraw from the tournament. However, after that, all the sects participating in the tournament withdrew. In the end, only 4 participants remained. The Royal Family, the Blue Moon Sect, the Lu family and the Wu family. The Wu family was chosen to face the Blue Moon Sect, but they quit the moment Ian took their name. And the surprising thing was that even the Lu family quit. It looked as though the host of the Black Tiger had made quite a mess the last time she fought, and people were now afraid of her. So with that, only 2 participants remained, and it was time for the finals that will take place after a day of rest. The Blue Moon sect returned back to the hotel, and Kai spent the rest of the day thinking about what was happening on the northern continent. Just to make sure that his theory was correct, he checked Mia's memory, and there were no traces of her being on the northern continent. Her memories of the mortal cultivation world began when she regained her soul in that forest on the western continent. Let's just wait for tomorrow and win that tournament, and then I am finally going to rescue Rizia. Kai said with certainty as dawn arrived. The sect woke up and got prepared to start the day. After they were ready, Kai teleported all of them to the arena. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the finale of the Black Tiger tournament. Ian announced as the 2 finalist teams went down to the arena floor. Let's see who they are going to send in first. Kai said as he looked at Watanabe, who was organizing the royal family members participating in the tournament. Watanabe then flew up to Ian and whispered something in her ear. Ian nodded as Watanabe flew back to her pavilion, where Asahi was cosily watching the arena with a mysterious smile. The royal family has decided to send in their best fighter. Please welcome, the host of the Black Tiger. Ian announced as a girl wearing white robes and a foolproof veil went up the stage. Was she wearing a veil the last time too? Kai asked Riang, who nodded. I can't sense her cultivation. Mariel commented as she frowned at the girl. Of course you can't. She is supposed to be at the 10th stage of Heaven's spirit realm. Kai replied. I want to fight her. Kiana suddenly said as Kai smiled at her. Even though you are 2 stages behind her, you still want to fight her. Well, nobody is stopping you, so go on. Kai said as Kiana slowly nodded and took a deep breath before walking up towards the stage. It looks as though the Blue Moon sect is sending Kiana, the long-lost princess. Ian announced as the crowd cheered. So you are the host of Pure White Tiger. Kuro told me about you. The princess said in an amused tone as she summoned the black tiger. The audience had already seen it before, so they clapped loudly and cheered for the princess. But Kiana just smiled at her and summoned the pure white tiger. I don't think that's how you greet your older sister. Kiana said as the crowd became silent. The only sound that was heard was of the 2 tigers growling at each other. Please start the match. It looked as though even Ian was shocked as her voice shook a little. You didn't tell anyone about the pure white tiger, huh? Kai, though, as Watanabe winked at him. Kiana and the princess simultaneously released their cultivation as the tigers launched themselves at each other. Dark clouds gathered in the sky as the 2 tigers called upon the power of lightning. While the tigers were fighting each other, Kiana and the Princess Aslo launched themselves at each other. Purple lightning started to dance around the princess as she moved towards Kiana, who also summoned lightning to protect. Kiana blocked her attack as a deafening sound filled the entire arena. The audience covered their ears as a ringing sound started to echo in their ears. But Kiana and the princess didn't stop as both of them started rising. Kiana Devida to attack first, and she launched a lightning dragon at the princess. Nobody would have been able to hear this because of the fight, but Kai clearly heard the princess laugh. The lightning dragon suddenly stopped its assault as it reached in front of the princess. Suddenly, the dragon started to vanish as the princess lifted a finger and started sucking the dragon. The dragon lost its form and raw electricity entered the princess's body. The crowd then remembered that they were supposed to cheer for the contestants and started cheering the princess. Goodbye, big sister. The princess sent a spiritual message to Kiana, who frowned. The princess then summoned the black tiger and the lightning around her started to change its color. The lightning turned completely black as the princess launched a black lightning dragon at Kiana. The pure white tiger, sensing that his host was in danger, appeared in front of Kiana. White lightning shot out from his body as it tried to destroy the black lightning dragon. But it was a futile attempt as the black lightning dragon crushed the pure white tiger and an explosion took place and smoke covered the entire area. After the smoke cleared, the pure white tiger had vanished and Kiana was nowhere to be seen. Even though Shiro blocked the attack for me, I still got some major damage. The least I could do is remove this veil and see your face. Kiana said as she appeared behind the princess and removed her veil. Everyone there gasped as they saw her appearance. Silky white hair and crystal clear white eyes with flushed red cheeks. Her face was as beautiful as a goddess as she looked at Kiana, who sprawled on the ground and her hands were full of blood as she was covering her wounds. Riang also stared at the princess with a look of awe, but she was worried about Kiana. She expected Kai to move and heal Kiana, but when he didn't, she looked at him and she was shocked to see his face. Kai was frozen on his place, his eyes widened in shock. Mariel was no different as she too stared at the princess with wide eyes and an open jaw. Lavina, 1. Both of them mumbled at the same time as they glanced at the elemental ruler of lightning. Kai then looked at Kiana and vanished to pick up. He then healed her wounds and dropped her with the rest of the sect. She is the elemental ruler of lightning. Lightning that is weaker than her lightning will be sucked up by her body and will be converted into spiritual energy that can be used by her. Kai said to Mia as she looked at Lavina in amazement. Sorry, but I will have to restrain you. Kai said as Mariel's body suddenly froze. But I have to fight her and bring her back. Mariel said as she tried to move her body but was not able to do so. Sorry, but you both can't defeat her because she has a perfect bond with this world's elemental spirit and that enhances her power by many folds. Kai declined her request. But don't worry. I am going to bring her back because that's the whole point of my life now. Kai said to Mariel as she stopped struggling. She looked directly into Kai's eyes and nodded as he smiled and released her. She was finally able to move her body and glanced at Lavina. The elemental rulers were extremely close. You can consider them as sisters. That's why she is so hasty to get Lavina back. Kai supplied to Mia as she nodded. But you are not hasty to get her back? Mia asked him. I, too, am hasty to get her back. But the only difference is that it doesn't show up on the outside. Kai replied with a smile before walking up to the stage. At last, we finally meet. Let's start with introductions. My name is Lavina. Lavina said as she thoroughly examined Kai's body while he just stared into her eyes. My name is Kai and I am pleased to meet you, Lavina. Kai said with a handsome smile as the audience started whispering. It looked as though Lavina was taken back by surprise, but she soon started laughing. She then stopped laughing, but a smile was still visible on her face. You really are interesting. Nobody calls me by name since I am the host of the White, or as you have seen, the Black Tiger. But you just called me by my name, which is cool. Lavina said as she extended her hand. Kai shook it as he stepped back. As soon as Ian gave the signal, Kai and Lavina vanished and met each other in the middle of the stage as a huge ripple of power went through the entire arena. 1. The name Lavina is of Latin origin and it means lightning bolt in English. Also join the Discord server for character images. Link in the author's thoughts section. Chapter 79 The King of Elements, End of Volume 1, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where did they go? Ian asked as Kai and Lavina vanished into thin air. They are here only. You can't see them cause they are moving too fast. Mariel snorted as she gestured towards Watanabe. Use your cultivation and you can see them. She said as Watanabe frowned and released her cultivation. She concentrated her cultivation on her eyes and she finally saw Kai and Lavina fighting on the stage. Both of them moved at the speed of light as they launched their attacks. But it was ending in a stalemate, or in other words, Kai was letting it end in a stalemate. Let's end this stalemate. Kai said after a few minutes and suddenly kicked Lavina in the stomach. They had been moving at a very fast speed and blocking each other's attacks, but Kai's kick came out nowhere and Lavina flew back because of the impact. However, Kuro came behind her and broke her fall. Lavina then stood up as black lightning ran around her body. You sure are good, but you can't beat me and Kuro. Lavina boasted as Kai smiled at her. Who said I am going to fight alone? He replied as golden lightning started to rise around his body. Raiden then appeared behind Kai and growled at the Black Tiger. The audience was frozen in shock as they saw Raiden. He was 2 times bigger than the Black Tiger and he had black and white strips on his body. You managed to surprise me when I thought you don't have any tricks left. Lavina chuckled as she examined Raiden. But still, we are the ones who are going to win this. She said and moved forward. Black lightning wrapped around her arm as she punched Kai in the face. But before her punch could land, golden lightning obstructed her punch as Kai's hair started to rise in spikes. His eyes turned golden as he grabbed her fist and tossed her towards the audience. The Black Tiger tried to stop Lavina, but the impact was so powerful that it also started falling towards the audience. Kai then snapped his fingers and a barrier covered the entire stage and Lavina and the Black Tiger rebounded of the barrier. Both of them stood up as Lavina created a black lightning dragon to attack Kai. The Black Tiger also created a dragon and launched it towards Kai. Try harder. You can't even scratch me if you are using such pathetic moves. Kai commented as he created a dragon of his own, one made from golden lightning. He launched it at the two incoming dragons and his dragon tore through them easily. But Lavina and the black tiger had already moved from their spots and were now behind Kai. Black lightning covered Lavina's leg and she attacked Kai's abdomen. But he stopped her kick with one finger while Raiden looked at the black tiger in amusement. You don't want to fight him cause he reminds you of the time when you were weak and were captured by those scientists. Kai realized what Raiden's gaze meant as Raiden nodded. Kai then dismissed Raiden as he turned around to look at his opponents. You did well there. You tried to take me by surprise and you knew that I would block you. So you decided that the black tiger would attack me while you keep me tied down to a place. Kai commented as black lightning covered Lavina's arms and she wrapped them around Kai's abdomen as she tried to trap him down. But it's a futile attempt. Try harder. Kai replied as a burst of golden lightning emerged from his body. Lavina cried in pain as the golden lightning started to corrode her black lightning. She coughed a small amount of blood and looked at Kuro. I didn't want to do this cause I will be bedridden for a week but you leave me no choice. Lavina muttered as the black tiger started to glow. It vanished into thin air as Lavina's eyes started to glow. One of her eyes turned black and the black lightning around her turned blue. Half-spirit form. That's impressive. Kai said in an impressed tone as a tail appeared from Lavina's clothes. Half-spirit form. A human and a spirit momentarily become one and both share the other's powers. But for this to happen, they must share a very strong bond, or otherwise, they will hurt each other. It's quite impressive that she managed to do that while being a mortal and not having her original powers. Mariel commented as she watched Lavina's half-spirit form. After her transformation, Lavina focused her gaze on Kai and rushed forward to attack him. Her nails extended into huge claws and blue lightning ran wildly around them. Rule number 1 of battling. Always use every single one of your senses. Do not depend on your eyes as they might fool. Kai said as he easily dodged her attack. Rule number 2 of battling. Always use unexpected moves and don't let the opponent figure out your moves. Kai replied as Lavina tried to attack him again and again. He just dodged her attacks as she growled in frustration but it looked as though she was listening to his advice as her moves started to become unpredictable. And the last rule of battling. Use everything you have got to win the battle. Kai finally said as he took hold of her claws. They didn't even leave a scratch on his hands as he punched Lavina in the stomach using his other hand. Do something like this. He then said as Lavina suddenly used his body as a base and flipped above his head. She then kicked him in the abdomen but Kai just smiled at her as he stepped back to maintain a distance between them. What is he doing? Riang asked as she looked at the stage where Kai was demonstrating one move after the another while Lavina came up with her own unpredictable set of moves. This battle would have ended the second it began. Kai is teaching her to be more fierce and precise in battle and he is having his fun while doing it. Mario replied in amusement but Riang was even more confused. What do you mean that it would have ended the second it began? Riang asked as Mario laughed. When it comes to the elemental rulers, people only remember him kidnapping us which is something completely different. But there is another title that is overshadowed by him kidnapping us. Mariel slowly said as a seductive smile formed upon her face. Riang didn't understand any of her words so she decided to look at the battle. At the same time, Lavina roared as blue lightning emerged from the clouds and attacked Kai. Nobody could see Kai as blue lightning continued to strike at him. But Mariel was not bothered by that. He is the king of elements and spirits. Mariel said as the blue lightning suddenly turned golden. Kai emerged from the golden lightning with a smile on his face as the clouds rumbled before golden lightning struck Lavina. She coughed up a lot of blood as her tail vanished and her eye returned to normal. The black tiger appeared beside her but it soon vanished as it was hurt too. Lavina crashed down on the ground and was unconscious. The tournament is over. Kai announced as the barrier vanished. He then went back to his sect as the royal family rushed to heal Lavina's wounds. You are not going to heal her? Mia asked as Kai shook his head. She would have healed by the time we get back from the central continent. Other than that, I checked the seal on her memories and it is a seal that can only be broken if she loses her virginity. Kai told them. Well, that would be easy. Mario replied as Kai shook his head again. No, it will only count if she loses her virginity to someone she loves. In other words, it has to be her lover that will release the seal on her mind. Kai replied as Mario frowned. You are going to let someone else release the seal and return her memories? She asked and narrowed her eyes at Kai. No, I am going to win her over once again. Even if she hates me, I will still win her back. Even though all of you are my lovers, you are still different than before. But that doesn't mean that I am going to give up. He said to her in a resolute tone as she nodded. But for now, we are going to the central continent to rescue Rizia. Kai said after some time as he took out the broken shard of the space gate. Phew, I can't believe that the first volume is done. I know that many of you didn't like the story, but for those of you who stuck with me to this point, I want to thank you. In the second volume, Kai and the group are going to explore the rest of the mortal cultivation world in search of his harem, and this will begin with them going to the central continent to rescue Rizia. I also want to tell you that Harem Overlord is going premium on July 29th. The chapters will be locked from the second volume while the first volume will be free to read so that readers could decide that they want to read ahead or not. The next chapter is going to be a preview of the second novel. It will probably be of 200 to 400 words, but it's going to tell you about the adventures Kai and his harem will face in the next volume. Till then, bye. Chapter 80 Preview of Volume 2, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This a preview of what will happen in the second volume, and it is only full of short scenes that will take place in the future. His eyes turned completely purple and the whiteness in them vanished. Two dark purple wings emerged from his back as he slowly rose into the sky. There is nothing we can do to stop him. Mariel said slowly as nature raged on itself. A horrible storm was brewing in the ocean while lightning struck repeatedly. The ground shook and cracked as the forces of nature launched themselves at Kai and the sky lit up. What is wrong with these people? Mia asked as she looked around the entire place. They are under the jurisdiction of a sin. One of the 7 deadly sins is here. Kai replied with certainty as the demon sword started to tremble. A demon is ruling this continent. Kai said with certainty. A dark ripple of power suddenly emerged from the center of the continent and Kai's eyes widened because of it. He bit his right finger as golden blood trickled down from it. Barrier of Eden. Kai said as he struck the ground with his hand. Volume 2. A demon or an angel?